Let's begin with the foundations. Welcome to another lecture. Today we examine Sophie Cunningham, whose career offers a compact case study in modern women's professional basketball. Shooting, physical play, and media fluency in one athlete.
Hi, I'm Priyanka. I'm excited to learn about how her role evolved, from college to the WNBA, and also about how she uses media to shape the story of the game.
To frame our discussion, Sophie Cunningham is, in simplest terms, a wing who shoots the three and plays with a level of controlled abrasion that affects spacing and psychology. Think of a chess player who loves open files, yet is not shy about an occasional rook check. She creates room for teammates while discouraging casual incursions by opponents. In basketball terms, a field goal is any made shot from the floor, 2 or 3 points depending on distance, and she has long demonstrated three-point accuracy, which stretches defenses laterally.
Actually, quick clarification. When people say field goal, sometimes I mix it up with football. Here it just means any basket from the court. And the three-pointer is the one behind the arc, right?
Precisely. And one more term that follows her. Enforcer. In basketball context, that is a player who signals that rough treatment of star teammates will have consequences. Not illegal play, rather a credible physical presence that changes opponent cost-benefit calculations. Cunningham's reputation there is an emergent property of several viral incidents and consistent game-long intensity.
That's a fair question. Why does this matter now? Isn't women's basketball already fast and physical? I feel like her story challenges some old assumptions, like that shooting specialists can't also be tone setters physically.
It's important to understand that the modern WNBA places high premiums on perimeter gravity and switchable defense. Cunningham's arc is relevant because she demonstrates how a player can scale from rotational minutes to reliable starter by adding volume three-point shooting and defensive events, steals and rebounds, while embracing a protective identity for teammates. Historically, observers have underestimated the tactical depth and physical intensity of the women's game. Cases like hers make that underestimation untenable. Let's start with the history. Cunningham was born in Columbia, Missouri, into a family steeped in University of Missouri athletics. At Rockbridge High School, she starred in basketball and volleyball, and even crossed over to the boys' football team as a kicker, going 2 for 4 on field goals. That multi-sport base sharpened balance and composure under pressure. At Missouri, she started all 129 college games, averaging 17.0 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 3.0 assists with excellent efficiency, roughly .501 from the field, .403 from three, and .839 at the line, a profile predictive of pro spacing value.
Then the draft, right? She was picked 13th overall in 2019 by the Phoenix Mercury, the highest selection for a Missouri Tigers alumna, and she began in a veteran environment where shooting and toughness were her ticket to minutes.
Correct. The rookie season was modest as she adjusted to professional speed. The 2021 postseason, however, was a turning point. 8 playoff games with .565 three-point accuracy, a 21-point outburst versus New York, and timely threes in the finals against Chicago. In 2022, she broke out as a starter, 28 games with 20 starts, 12.6 points per game, and 70 made threes, plus a real uptick on the glass. In 2024, she logged career-best defensive activity, 141 defensive rebounds and 41 steals, with efficient spot-up shooting at .378 from three. Then, in January 2025, a trade to the Indiana Fever recalibrated her context. She shot .432 from three there, underscoring synergy with dynamic guards.
And off the court, she developed a public voice. She became a recurring on-air analyst for the Phoenix Suns television coverage in December 2022. And she hosts a podcast, Show Me Something. She even used it in August 2025 to confirm a torn right MCL, which, in a way, showed how athletes now control their own news cycle.
Indeed. We also know two viral episodes that cemented her enforcer reputation and pop culture footprint. An ejection in 2025 after a retaliatory foul in defense of Caitlin Clark, and in 2026, an extended finger-pointing exchange with veteran Dewana Bonner that resulted in offsetting technicals. The pointing clip proliferated as a meme. As a minor caveat on the record-keeping front, certain 2024 team record tallies and public summaries are inconsistent in game count, so we focus on her verified individual production, rather than that disputed aggregate. Before we get to the complexities, a brief personal note. I am partial to narratives in which a player refines discrete skills, shooting angles, defensive positioning, and then accepts less glamorous tasks that elevate teammates. In chess, we admire not only the queen's flourish, but the bishop that keeps the long diagonal honest. Cunningham's willingness to contest space, absorb contact, and still hit the corner three. This is the basketball equivalent.
So yeah, moving on. Can we lay out the big questions? I'm thinking one about history, one about a counterfactual, and one about today's media landscape.
This logically leads us to our first inquiry. How did her college role translate to the WNBA? In college, she combined high usage with elite efficiency. 457 from three as a junior is not common, and she never missed a start. The professional league compresses roles. The first years demanded that she distill her game into repeatable, high-value actions. Off-ball relocation, catch-and-shoot timing, strong side cuts, plus defensive rebounding from the wing. She then re-expanded as opportunities arose.
I'm curious about the jump from being a primary option at Missouri to more of a spacer and tone setter in Phoenix. How does a player make peace with less on-ball control while still impacting winning?
We observed that translation is a problem of optimization under constraints. The WNBA compresses possessions, scouting is exhaustive, and time to advantage is short. Cunningham leaned into scalable skills. First, reliable corner and slot threes. Second, defensive boards to end possessions. Third, a willingness to contest physically so teammates could operate without harassment. 2021's playoffs validated her as a high-leverage shooter. 2022 validated starter-level volume. And 2024 validated defensive events at scale. In simpler terms, she found the few things that always travel: shooting, toughness, and accountability, and then did them every night.
Building on that, her family background and the multi-sport high school years, do you think that specifically helped with this adaptability?
Arguably, yes. The Missouri lineage normalized expectations. The Rockbridge experience diversified movement patterns, volleyball balance, football composure. These are not romantic details. They are biomechanical and psychological assets. When the pro game asked her to be physically assertive, while also quick processing as a spacer, the foundation was already in place. Let's transition to another aspect, the counterfactual. What if she had not torn her right MCL in August 2025? With Indiana, she was hitting .432 from three, a premium complement to a dynamic backcourt. We can infer that continued availability would have preserved lineups with elite spacing, reduced defensive collapse on drives, and maintained a protective deterrent effect after the earlier enforcer episode.
Can we say that team dynamics might have shifted? Maybe more confident drives from teammates, knowing she is both spacing and, watching their backs. Would seeding or a playoff series have looked different?
To elaborate, quantitatively, we would expect a marginal increase in offensive rating for lineups featuring her gravity. Corner defenders are less willing to stunt, which keeps driving lanes cleaner. Qualitatively, the enforcer halo reduces gratuitous contact against a franchise guard. The effect is subtle, yet cumulative. Across a close schedule, that can mean one or two additional wins, and in a compressed playoff field, a different first-round opponent. Naturally, injuries are only one variable, but absent the MCL tear, we would project steadier rotations, a narrower distribution of turnover variance, and a higher probability of advancing at least a round if matchups cooperated.
Maybe it's just me, but the word enforcer sometimes sounds negative. How do we keep the line between healthy deterrence and excess?
It is worth noting that leagues already encode the boundary. Technical fouls, flagrant reviews, suspensions. The strategic version is about absorbing contact legally, setting firm screens, and communicating that cheap shots invite credible responses within rules. Cunningham's 2025 ejection shows the cost side. The broader season arc shows why teams still prize the archetype. As ever, calibration is the art. On to our next point, the open question today. How does her media role shape perceptions of the women's game? As a recurring NBA studio analyst since late 2022, she translates tactics to a broader audience. And via her own podcast, she bypasses intermediaries to frame narratives, including breaking her own injury news. This dual presence helps bridge audiences who might otherwise view the WNBA at an informational distance.
I often think about bandwidth. How does an active player balance preparation and broadcasting? And does being on air while playing move the needle for league popularity in a measurable way?
Theoretically, there are two channels of impact. First, the immediate. Viewers who encounter a current player explaining coverages are more likely to sample WNBA games. Conversion via credibility. Second, the cumulative. Repeated appearances normalize women's expertise in the broader basketball discourse. The open research questions are empirical. What is the change in cross-platform engagement when a current WNBA player appears on NBA studio shows? How does direct-to-fan podcasting shift sentiment and retention over a season? Cunningham's case gives us a clean test because her media work began while on-court contributions were simultaneously prominent. Early indicators suggest positive spillover, but controlled studies are rare, and we should be cautious before assigning causality.
From a different angle, players learn by teaching. Could explaining pick-and-roll coverages on television sharpen her own scouting lens, and therefore her decisions on the court?
Clearly, metacognition matters. Articulating why a weak side tag is late on tape tends to make the tag punctual on Thursday. Her on-air work likely improves in-game communication, a quiet form of leadership that teammates recognize quickly. This aligns with her 2024 defensive metrics and 2025 shooting precision in a new system. A player seeing the same film from multiple vantage points. To summarize, Sophie Cunningham's path runs from Columbia roots and Missouri reliability through a second-round selection in 2019 to postseason credibility in 2021, a 2022 breakout, defensive breadth in 2024, a 2025 trade to Indiana with 4-3-2 three-point shooting, an MCL setback announced on her own podcast, and a 2026 re-signing that signals organizational belief. Along the way, she became a recognizable enforcer figure and a cross-platform voice. Our three questions map that translation from college to pro, the plausible 2025 without injury, and the media-shaped present that may influence the sport's reach.
Maybe that's something we can come back to later. Women in sports media more broadly. Who is shaping the discourse, and how that feeds back into attendance and viewership? Thank you for listening, and thank you, Professor.
This then completes our present analysis. We appreciate your attention. Until next time.